Hey there, you're looking kinda cute. Don't forget to subscribe and check out all my other socials. Enjoy. The old clock shop stood silent, its shelves lined with timepieces frozen in place. Dust motes danced in the air, caught in shafts of afternoon sunlight streaming through grimy windows. Julius wiped his brow, his skilled hands carefully disassembling the intricate gears of a grandfather clock. Julius had dedicated his life to the art of horology. His weathered fingers bore the marks of countless repairs, each callus a testament to years spent coaxing stubborn mechanisms back to life. The shop was his sanctuary, a place where time itself seemed to stand still. As Julius reached for another tool, something caught his eye. Tucked away in a far corner of the cluttered workbench sat an unfamiliar pocket watch. Its tarnished silver case gleamed dully in the low light. Curious, Julius picked it up, turning it over in his hands. The watch felt unusually heavy, its surface etched with intricate swirling patterns he'd never seen before. "Now, where did you come from?" Julius muttered, squinting at the strange timepiece. He couldn't recall acquiring it, yet here it was. Unable to resist the allure of a new puzzle, Julius carefully opened the case. The watch's innards were unlike anything he'd encountered in his decades of clockmaking. Gears of an unidentifiable metal interlocked in dizzying patterns, spinning in ways that defied the laws of physics. At the center sat a small winding key. Without thinking, Julius inserted the key and gave it 3 sharp turns. The gears whirred to life, spinning faster and faster until they became a blur. A peculiar tingling sensation spread from his fingers, racing up his arm and throughout his body. The world tilted sideways. Julius stumbled, knocking over a stack of repair manuals as he grasped for support. His vision swam, the familiar confines of his shop dissolving into a kaleidoscope of shifting colors. A roaring filled his ears, drowning out all other sound. As suddenly as it began, the strange episode passed. Julius found himself on his knees, gasping for breath. Something felt off. His clothes hung loosely on his frame, as if they'd grown several sizes too large. Long strands of chestnut hair fell across his face. Wait, long hair. Julius scrambled to his feet, nearly tripping over his now oversized shoes. He staggered to the small mirror hanging on the wall, dreading what he might see. The face staring back was undeniably feminine. High cheekbones, full lips, and wide hazel eyes gazed back in shock. Julius raised a trembling hand to her cheek. The skin was softer, smoother than he was accustomed to. "This can't be happening," Julius whispered, her voice higher and melodic. She looked down, taking in the dramatic changes to her body. Where once there had been a decidedly male physique, curves now filled out her ill-fitting clothes. Julius's mind reeled, struggling to process the impossible transformation. She snatched up the pocket watch, frantically examining it for some clue, some way to reverse whatever had happened. The watch's face remained inscrutable, its hands ticking away, as if nothing out of the ordinary had occurred. A glance at the clock on the wall revealed it was just past 3 p.m. Julius took a deep breath, forcing herself to think rationally. "Okay," she said aloud, her unfamiliar voice startling her. "I need to figure this out, but first, I need clothes that fit." She rummaged through the small closet in the back of the shop, where she kept spare outfits for long repair jobs. Nothing would fit properly, but she managed to find a pair of old sweatpants with a drawstring waist and a loose t-shirt. After changing, Julius caught sight of herself in the mirror again. The reflection was still jarring, but at least now she looked less like she was drowning in fabric. Julius ran a hand through her long hair, marveling at its silky texture. "This is insane," she muttered. A knock at the shop door made her jump. "We're closed!" Julius called out, wincing at the sound of her feminine voice. "Jules, it's me! Open up!" Julius recognized the voice of her friend and fellow clockmaker, Martin. Panic welled up inside her. How could she possibly explain this situation? I can't right now, Martin. I'm in the middle of a tricky repair, Julius called back, trying to deepen her voice. There was a pause. You all right in there? You sound weird. Just a cold, Julius lied. I'll call you later, okay? If you're sure, Martin replied, sounding unconvinced. Take care of yourself, buddy. Julius sagged against the door in relief as she heard Martin's footsteps recede. That had been too close. She needed to get home where she could think without fear of interruption. Gathering her things, Julius hesitated before tucking the mysterious pocket watch into her bag. Part of her wanted to smash the cursed thing, but it might be her only chance at reversing this transformation. Stepping outside, Aurelius was immediately struck by how different the world felt from this new perspective. Scents seemed more vivid, colors more vibrant. Even the way the breeze caressed her skin felt novel. As she walked, Julius became acutely aware of the attention she was drawing. Men's gazes lingered, some offering appreciative smiles. It was disconcerting, to say the least. Julius quickened her pace, eager to reach the sanctuary of her apartment. Climbing the stairs to her third-floor walk-up proved more challenging than usual. Her center of gravity had shifted, and her barred sneakers were far too large. By the time she reached her door, Julius was out of breath and swearing under her breath. Once inside, Julius leaned against the closed door, surveying her familiar surroundings with new eyes. Everything looked the same, yet somehow different. She caught sight of herself in the hallway mirror and did a double take. It was going to take a while to get used to that reflection. Julius's stomach growled, reminding her that she hadn't eaten since breakfast. She made her way to the kitchen, opening the refrigerator out of habit. The sight of leftover pizza made her nose wrinkle in disgust. That had been her favorite, but now the thought of all that grease turned her stomach. Instead, Julius found herself craving something light and fresh. She cobbled together a salad from the meager contents of her crisper drawer, surprised by how satisfying it was. As she ate, Julius tried to make sense of her situation. Okay, she said aloud, her voice still startling her. I turned into a woman because of a magic pocket watch. That's completely insane, but it happened. So what now? Julius glanced at the clock. It was nearing 5 p.m. She had no idea how long this transformation would last. For all she knew, it could be permanent. The thought sent a shiver down her spine. I need more suitable clothes, Julius decided. Her current outfit might work for lounging at home, but she couldn't exactly go out in public like this. A trip to the nearby department store seemed in order. After a bit of trial and error, Julius managed to fashion a makeshift bra from a torn t-shirt. It wasn't comfortable, but it would have to do for now. She pulled on the least baggy pair of jeans she owned and cinched them tight with a belt. Looking in the mirror, Julius had to admit she made for an attractive woman. Long legs, a slim waist, and generous curves in all the right places. Her chestnut hair fell in loose waves past her shoulders, framing a heart-shaped face with high cheekbones and full lips. This is so weird, Julius muttered, shaking her head. She grabbed her wallet and keys, then hesitated. Should she take the pocket watch? After a moment's deliberation, she tucked it into her pocket. Better to keep it close, just in case. The walk to the department store was an education in itself. Julius found herself hyper-aware of her surroundings in a way she'd never been before. Every passing car, every stranger on the street seemed to demand her attention. Was this how women always felt? Entering the store, Julius felt completely out of her depth. She wandered aimlessly through racks of clothing, overwhelmed by the sheer variety of options. How was she supposed to know what would fit or look good? Can I help you find anything? A cheerful voice asked. Julius turned to see a smiling sales associate, her name tag identifying her as Ashley. Julius floundered for a moment before inspiration struck. I lost my luggage on a flight. Need to replace, everything. Ashley's eyes widened in sympathy. Oh no, that's awful. Don't worry, we'll get you sorted out. Let's start with the basics, shall we? The next hour was a whirlwind of activity. Ashley proved to be a godsend, guiding Julius through the intimidating world of women's fashion. She helped Julius select a variety of outfits, from casual wear to something a bit dressier, just in case. The most mortifying part came when Ashley steered Julius towards the lingerie section. "You'll need proper support," she said matter-of-factly. "Let's get you measured." Julius's face burned as Ashley wrapped a tape measure around her chest. 34C, Ashley announced. "Not bad. You've got a great figure to work with." By the time they finished, Julius had amassed a small mountain of clothing. She winced at the total, but handed over her credit card without complaint. At least she'd be properly dressed for however long this situation lasted. "Do you want to wear any of this out?" Ashley asked as she bagged up Julius's purchases. Julius nodded gratefully. "That would be great, thanks." She ducked into a changing room, emerging a few minutes later in dark wash-skinny jeans, a soft green sweater, and a pair of low-heeled ankle boots. The outfit was comfortable yet flattering, boosting Julius's confidence. "You look fantastic," Ashley beamed. "Good luck with everything. I hope your luggage turns up soon." Julius thanked her profusely before heading out, laden with shopping bags. The sun was setting as she made her way home, casting long shadows across the sidewalk. She was surprised to find she was actually enjoying the feeling of her new clothes, the way the fabric hugged her curves. Back in her apartment, Julius carefully hung up her new wardrobe. It was surreal, seeing delicate blouses and dresses next to her usual button-downs and slacks. She changed into a pair of silk pajamas, marveling at how soft they felt against her skin. As she puttered around her apartment, Julius found herself moving with increasing confidence. The initial awkwardness of her new body was fading, replaced by a strange sense of rightness. She caught herself swaying her hips as she walked, enjoying the graceful movement. It was nearing 9 p.m. when Julius's phone buzzed with a text from Martin. "You feeling any better? Want me to bring over some soup?" Julius bit her lip, conflicted. Part of her longed for some company, someone to talk to about this insane situation. But how could she possibly explain? "Thanks, but I'm okay," she typed back. "Just need some rest. Talk tomorrow?" Martin's reply came quickly. "Sure thing. Feel better." Julius sighed, setting down her phone. She felt guilty for lying to her friend, but what choice did she have? How could anyone possibly believe what had happened? As the night wore on, Julius found herself growing increasingly comfortable in her new skin. She experimented with applying makeup, following tutorials on her phone. The results were far from perfect, but she felt a strange thrill of accomplishment as she mastered the basics of eyeliner. Around midnight, exhaustion finally caught up with her. Julius crawled into bed, sinking into the soft sheets with a contented sigh. Despite the craziness of the day, she felt oddly at peace. Just before drifting off, Julius reached for the pocket watch on her nightstand. She studied it in the dim light, tracing the intricate patterns etched into its surface. "What are you?" she whispered. "And why me?" The watch remained silent, its hands ticking steadily onward. Julius awoke to sunlight streaming through her bedroom window. For a moment, she forgot the events of the previous day. Then she caught sight of her slender feminine hand resting on the pillow, and reality came crashing back. Sitting up, Julius took stock of her situation. She was still female. That much was clear. A glance at the clock revealed it was just past 8 a.m. She'd been in this form for about 17 hours now. As Julius went through her morning routine, she found herself marveling at how quickly she'd adapted. Brushing her long hair felt natural now, as did applying a light layer of makeup. She chose a simple outfit of jeans and a flowy blouse, surprised by how much she enjoyed putting the ensemble together. Over breakfast, Julius pondered her next move. She couldn't hide in her apartment forever. Eventually, she'd have to face the world. But how? Should she try to resume her normal life, explaining away her transformation as best she could? Or should she embrace this new identity, at least temporarily? The pocket watch sat on the kitchen counter, ticking away innocently. Julius picked it up, turning it over in her hands. "I don't suppose you could give me any hints?" she asked wryly. As expected, the watch remained silent. Julius's musings were interrupted by a knock at the door. Her heart leapt into her throat. Who could that be? Peering through the peephole, Julius saw Martin standing in the hallway, a paper bag in his hands. Panic welled up inside her. What should she do? "Jules, you in there?" Martin called out. "I brought some of that chicken soup you like. Thought it might help with your cold." Julius took a deep breath, steeling herself. She couldn't avoid her best friend forever. Maybe it was time to trust someone with the truth. Slowly, she opened the door. Martin's eyes widened in shock as he took in the unfamiliar woman before him. "Oh, I'm sorry," he stammered. "I must have the wrong apartment." "It's me, Martin," Julius said softly. "It's Juice." Martin's jaw dropped. He stared at Julius for a long moment, confusion etched across his features. "What? How? Jules?" Julius stepped back, gesturing for Martin to come inside. "You might want to sit down for this," she said. "It's a long story." Over the next hour, Julius recounted the bizarre events of the previous day. She showed Martin the pocket watch, demonstrating how it refused to open or wind again. Throughout her tale, Martin listened with rapt attention, his expression cycling through disbelief, confusion, and amazement. "So let me get this straight," Martin said when Julius finished. "You wound up a magic pocket watch and it turned you into a woman?" Julius nodded. "I know it sounds insane. I can hardly believe it myself." Martin ran a hand through his hair, shaking his head. "If it was anyone else, I'd think they were pulling my leg. But you've always been a terrible liar, Jules. And, well..." He gestured at Julius's decidedly feminine form. "The evidence is kind of hard to ignore." "You believe me?" Julius asked, relief washing over her. "I'm not sure what to believe," Martin admitted. "But I know you. Whatever's going on here, we'll figure it out together." Tears welled up in Julius's eyes. She hadn't realized how much she'd needed to hear those words. Without thinking, she threw her arms around Martin, hugging him tightly. Martin stiffened for a moment before awkwardly patting her back. "It's okay, buddy. Is Buddy still okay?" Julius laughed, wiping her eyes as she pulled away. "Buddy is fine, though I suppose I should go by Julia for now, just in case." "Julia it is," Martin agreed. He glanced at his watch. "Listen, I've got to get to the shop. But why don't you come by later? We can brainstorm ways to reverse this. Or at least figure out your next move." Julius nodded gratefully. "That sounds great. Thanks, Martin. For everything." After Martin left, Julius felt a weight lift from her shoulders. Having a confidant made the whole situation feel slightly less overwhelming. She spent the next few hours tidying her apartment. Finding the physical activity helped clear her mind. Around noon, Julius decided it was time to venture out into the world. She chose a casual outfit of leggings, a long tunic top, and comfortable flats. After a final check in the mirror, and marveling again at how natural applying makeup now felt, she headed out. The walk to the clock shop was an exercise in heightened awareness. Julius found herself hyper-conscious of the way people looked at her, the subtle nods or smiles from passing strangers. It was simultaneously thrilling and unnerving. As she neared the shop, Julius's steps slowed. What if a customer recognized her? How would she explain her dramatic transformation? Taking a deep breath, Julius pushed open the door. The familiar chime of the bell soothed her nerves somewhat. Martin looked up from his workbench, a warm smile spreading across his face. Julia, glad you made it," he said, catching himself just in time. An elderly woman browsing the wall clocks glanced over curiously. "Thanks for having me," Julius replied, pitching her voice slightly higher than usual. She made a show of looking around the shop. "This place is amazing. I can see why my cousin speaks so highly of it." Martin caught on quickly. "Yes, Jules has always had an eye for quality timepieces. Speaking of which, how's that pocket watch he was so excited about?" Julius pulled the mysterious watch from her purse, handing it to Martin. "Still as perplexing as ever," she said ruefully. Martin examined the watch closely, his expert eyes taking in every detail. "I've never seen craftsmanship like this," he murmured. "The engraving alone must have taken months. And these gears, I can't even identify the metal." The elderly customer approached, peering at the watch with interest. "My, what a lovely piece," she said. "Is it for sale?" "I'm afraid not," Julius said quickly. "It's a family heirloom." The woman nodded understandingly. "Those are the best kind. Hold on to it, dearie. You never know what kind of magic might be hiding in those old gears." Julius and Martin exchanged a meaningful look as the woman wandered back to the wall clocks. If only she knew. The rest of the afternoon passed in a blur of activity. Julius found herself falling easily into the rhythm of the shop, assisting customers and even making a few sales. Her knowledge of horology raised a few eyebrows, but she explained it away as a passionate hobby. As closing time approached, Julius realized with a start that nearly 24 hours had passed since her transformation. She glanced at the pocket watch, wondering if she'd suddenly changed back at the stroke of 3 p.m. 3 p.m. came and went. Julius remained resolutely female. "Maybe it's not on a strict 24-hour cycle," Martin suggested as they closed up shop. "Could be tied to the phases of the moon or something." Julius nodded absently, lost in thought. The truth was, a small part of her had been disappointed when 3 p.m. passed without incident. The past day had been strange and overwhelming, certainly, but it had also been exciting, freeing in a way she couldn't quite articulate. "Earth to Julia," Martin said, waving a hand in front of her face. "You okay?" Julius blinked, coming back to the present. "Sorry, just thinking, what do we do now?" Martin shrugged. "I'm not sure there's much we can do, honestly. Unless you want to start looking for a magical watchmaker or something." The mental image of putting an ad in the classifieds, seeking sorcerer specializing in chronological transmutation, must have made Julius laugh. "I suppose we'll just have to wait and see what happens," she said. As they parted ways for the evening, Martin gave Julius a supportive squeeze on the shoulder. "Whatever comes next, I've got your back. Woman, man, or anything in between." Julius felt a rush of affection for her friend. "Thanks, Martin. I don't know what I'd do without you." Back in her apartment, Julius found herself at loose ends. The initial panic of her situation had faded, replaced by a strange sense of anticipation. What would happen next? On impulse, Julius decided to treat herself to a relaxing bubble bath. She lit a few candles, poured a glass of wine, and sank into the warm, fragrant water with a contented sigh. As she soaked, Julius allowed her mind to wander. What if she didn't change back? The thought should have terrified her, but instead it sent a thrill of excitement through her body. She thought about the way she'd felt today. Confident, alive, seeing the world through fresh eyes. Did she really want to give that up? By the time Julius emerged from the bath, her fingers pruny and her mind made up, it was well past midnight. She toweled off, slipping into a silky nightgown that made her feel elegant and feminine. Settling into bed, Julius reached for the pocket watch on her nightstand. She studied it in the dim light, tracing the intricate patterns with her finger. "Thank you," she whispered. As Julius drifted off to sleep, a small smile played across her lips. Whatever tomorrow brought, she was ready to face it. The next morning, Julius awoke to find herself once again in her original male body. For a moment, disappointment washed over him. Then he remembered his revelation from the night before. Getting out of bed, Julius caught sight of himself in the mirror. His male form felt strange now, almost ill-fitting. He ran a hand through his short hair, missing the silky length he'd grown accustomed to. A plan began to form in Julius's mind. He couldn't use the pocket watch to transform again. At least, not yet. But that didn't mean he had to give up the sense of freedom and excitement he'd experienced. Over the next few weeks, Julius began to subtly alter his appearance. He grew out his hair, experimented with more androgynous clothing choices. In the privacy of his apartment, he practiced walking in heels, applying makeup with increasing skill. Martin was supportive, if a bit confused by his friend's new direction. "Are you sure about this?" he asked one day as they closed up shop. Julius nodded, a serene smile on his face. "I've never been more sure of anything in my life," he said. "That pocket watch? It showed me a part of myself I never knew existed. I can't go back to pretending it's not there." Thanks for watching! The rest won't be viewable on YouTube, so check out Patreon if you want more.